For people familiar with Italian football, you're not going to feel all that unfamiliar with Giovanni Leoni, the guy who plays it for Parma at the moment and is, frankly, one of the biggest young centre-back talents in Europe right now. That's why he's wanted by Inter Milan, AC Milan, lots of other clubs in Italy, and is being chased by Liverpool, Newcastle, Tottenham, and others. He is a real talent, and that is obviously why Liverpool have him on their radar. There are also other reasons why we have him on our radar, but we will talk about those in just a second. And I've got to admit, guys, at the very top of this, there's a reason we brought Richard Hughes in, and this guy, he feels like a Richard Hughesy type signing. So just go with me on this, especially as so far Liverpool have been pretty good with a lot of their signings in this new era. And they bought in Hughes, they bought in Slot for almost exactly this kind of plan. But let's talk about Giovanni Leoni and where he currently sits in the world of football. Of course, he made his debut just a couple of seasons ago when he played for Padova. He was 16 and he was actually the youngest professional in the league system at that time. Pretty impressive for a young guy. And that's what's garnered him the nickname, the new Cannavaro, the young Cannavaro, the next Cannavaro. I don't know how you translate that, but I was trying to translate it in a number of ways. A couple of different people told me different things. Of course, he's very impressive. He's very tall. He is 195 centimeters, which I think makes him about, well, somewhere between 6'4" and 6'5". So yeah, he's a sizable guy. Sometimes that can be good in football. Sometimes it's not so good. Like a lot of people assume that height automatically equals aerial dominance, but I'm not always sure that is the case. But apparently he is equally good in aerial and ground duels and seems to have that kind of swashbuckling idea, which I think Liverpool really like about a centre-back. They want centre-backs who essentially are front-footed, and Giovanni Leoni certainly seems like that. He is also quite literally right-footed, but a lot of people profile him as ambipedal. I would say that if you prefer one side or the other as a centre-back, you're probably going to get profiled as one or the other. But especially if you're looking to play in a system like Liverpool's where you're going to have very limited centre-backs, and you could see this in pre-season, it helps to have people who can cross over from one side to the other and not be particularly uncomfortable in doing so. If he can do that, fantastic. But again, the guy's just 18, so I'm not going to be putting too much pressure on him. There's not many 18-year-olds in the world who can play at the very top level, but this guy apparently has a lot of those hallmarks. Of course, he's very promising in Italy in the first place. Historically, Liverpool haven't really had any fantastic Italian. We had a couple of good guys where you're like, okay, yeah, maybe we can see something fitting in it, but I've never really felt that we've had anyone blow us away. Fabio Borini. Anyway, there are plenty of people out there who now realise that Liverpool's profiling of players and going into this next generation will obviously change. And Hughes is very much a leader on that front. Your nationality is not going to make a big difference to, you know, if you fit in at a club or not, especially if you've got other people who are very good at helping you to fit into that club. But yeah, historically, Liverpool haven't signed many Italians, and when we have, we've not always been thrilled about it. So it's just worth flagging that now. Of course, when he was younger, he went around a number of different places, and now he's settled in Parma, where he's helped them stay up. I think a lot of you will remember there have been a few flashpoints in the season where he's had particularly good performances. There was the one against Juve. He's now obviously wanted by Inter Milan. And I think ultimately a lot of Italians want to remain in Italy because they understand the schooling there, the development there, and equally the football they've been playing for a couple of years is probably more likely to help them. But equally, if you've got big names from the Premier League coming in for you, if you've got people who really want you in their side, there is a bit of a pull there. Apparently his preference at the moment is Inter Milan. Can't blame him for that. I think Inter Milan historically profile and bring up great centre-backs, so, you know, I wouldn't be upset if he ended up going there. But equally, I think Liverpool's plan right now is probably one that looks like this. Bring in at least one more centre-back. So Joe Gomez, as good as he is, isn't currently ever fit enough to play in this Liverpool side, consistently at least. Konate may still want to leave Anfield. There isn't a contract signed there. There isn't a big announcement, and we've not seen much movement in that in recent weeks. So again, just something to consider. And obviously Virgil van Dijk is already entering that last 2 years of his contract because he's literally in that last 2 years of his contract. So that's not many centre-backs. I mean, obviously we've seen some good defenders in pre-season. I was most impressed by Luke Stevenson. I've been very impressed by other midfielders dropping into that back line. But it's very clear that there are midfielders and defenders. And as much as profiles are beginning to merge and all these kind of things, and actually Leoni is very good at going on right centre-back or on the right side of a midfield, you know, like a kind of a deep-lying guy, or equally on the right side of a three. You can imagine him on any of those, especially if you looked at kind of where those centre-backs play. he's not that kind of attacking out-and-out guy who's just going to go crazy in the box and just kind of, he's not a Joel Matip, put it that way. But he is a very good ball carrier, and he is very good at riding tackles. He is very good at his duels. Equally, he is someone who's obviously a good defender. We've not spoken much about his defending. I've got a whole load of notes here down here, and I've not actually spoke much about his defending at all. Tall, strong, agile. He's obviously fantastic. He's technically extremely composed on the ball, and he is a very good passer. I think Liverpool have been looking at how they can replace probably a Konate, but equally probably a Virgil van Dijk in the years to come. And they need people who are going to be aerially dominant. That's a huge part of Liverpool's defensiveness, especially if we're going to be pushing up, getting people who are A, aerially dominant, and B, good at dealing with counterattacks. That's probably a majority of what they're going to end up doing. And then I think inherently in your blood in Italy, you're good at a deep lying, any formation really, but a deep block is probably one of your standout strengths, should we say. He certainly strikes me as the kind of player that Liverpool want because of Richard Hughes. And I look at the profiles that Richard Hughes would have brought in, and I think, hey, that could have been someone that I would see at Bournemouth, particularly because a lot of people compare him to Huijsen and the way he looked, the way he played, all these kind of things. And now obviously Huijsen has made his big jump to a higher level, and I mean, it's not even that big. I mean, from Bournemouth there isn't really that big, but he's a great player. I think Liverpool would have been interested in him, but I think we're also looking for value for money now. And as much as we've rebuilt in the front line with very experienced players, obviously in Florian Wirtz is young, but he's experienced. We're looking at Isak who's young, but he's experienced. So he's transitioning to that next phase as a striker. Chiesa, obviously an experienced player. Gakpo's still relatively young. Salah, obviously aging now. We need to look to replace him. The chat the other day was obviously the Frimpong chat around whether he would replace Salah during the African Cup of Nations. Apparently that will be the case. And so we've done a lot of retooling in that front line. But in the back line, we're looking, and I think the key to any back line is relationships, right? Van Dijk and Robbo had relationships for a very long time down that relationship for a very long time. They had a good relationship for a very long time down that side. And it's really made Liverpool solid for years. Tsimikas comes in and he is good, but there are times we can just feel Robbo was always number one. Kerkez is now that. And I think we're going to be looking at Liverpool rotating between those guys this season just in order to get the best value and in order to keep people fresh and fit if we are looking to play a lot of games, which we are later in the season. And so bringing in someone like Giovanni Leoni, who I think ultimately won't be one of our starters immediately, buys us a little more time, should we say. We're looking at him as a centre-back backup to Konate and Van Dijk, because multiple people are running down their contracts. The idea might be that obviously Konate runs down his contract, and then Mark Guehi also runs down his contract, and suddenly Liverpool one in, one out. But obviously if you're not paying the massive sign-on fee or whatever it is, obviously you're not paying a transfer fee, you're paying the sign-on fee, then you bring someone else in. Leoni still gets to watch, train with, and understudy for some of the best centre-backs in Europe. And ultimately, as Van Dijk moves out, I think you probably see Mark Guehi move over to the other side, and then you bring in a young centre-back who's closer to 20 at that point, who's closer to his physical development and just hitting that role of just growing into this role. And we're looking at someone who, we've got a bit of a conveyor belt there. That's alongside, of course, Nalo and any other young centre-backs we've got in there. I've been very impressed with a number of people in pre-season, their defensive prowess alongside the attacking brilliance that Liverpool have shown. Obviously we've conceded goals in pre-season, but very often they either put that down to individual mistakes, which more or less happen from more senior players, and then equally probably just getting used to a new system. I'm not seeing Liverpool in the long run taking so many risks or leaving ourselves so open at the back, and if we are going to do that, I think that over time you see people get more and more used to where they need to be in order to best deal with those things. So yeah, Leoni will come in, and I'm sure obviously there are plenty of people who would say he's not a starter straight away because he isn't. But we would bring in someone who I think would be a very capable understudy to both of these centre-backs that we currently have, and obviously someone who then would just grow into this brand new role and grow into what it is that Liverpool are looking for from him, right? Which obviously is just to become a centre-back in the end. Plenty of headlines around this. Liverpool amongst several Premier League clubs interested. Bournemouth also one of those interested. Liverpool value this is a long-term asset, so I think, we would be looking, basically, when they say that, they basically mean he won't play initially. They fit him into their progressive, youth-oriented rebuild. That was in 4-4-2. Leoni apparently currently prefers Inter Milan. There is also AC and Juventus are also there for him. And obviously Parma's valuation is between 15 and 20 million euros initially, but it's reported to go up to 35 to 40 million euros. And so that's obviously with lots of different add-ons and how successful he is, all those kind of things. The guy's still 18. And as tall as he is and all these kind of things, and he's a great ball player, he's agile, everything you want a centre-back to be, it doesn't solve our problem immediately with Konate, but it does allude to the fact that we are rebuilding. And I think it is a Richard Hughes plan here. We're not going to rehabilitate or revive every part of the team or rebuild in every area in the same way. The front line might need a little bit more experience, slightly more agile. We can't be bringing in big risks in that front line who might score anywhere between 5 and 20 goals if they explode. We need someone whose floor is 15 and their ceiling is 30, 35, 40. Do you know what I mean? Whereas at centre-back, I think, obviously, it's a slightly different craft. It's a slightly different technique. It's a slightly different idea back there. I think you can afford to be a little bit more, just a little bit. You can bed people in. You can also probably profile people differently. You can also see that maybe a younger guy can play those roles a little bit more consistently because they're not sprinting in the same way. They're not constantly out of breath in that same way, even though there are equally sprints at centre-back in the same time. So, and also alongside someone that's slightly more experienced with someone to always talk you through things, that is a little bit different. I think Liverpool felt that way with Nunez. We didn't see that come off. We're now bringing in the experience kind of baked into a lot of these players, and you can see that at Liverpool, I think that Liverpool will rebuild their centre-backs over the next 1-2 seasons, basically. And that was our next big area of rebuild. And I don't think we're looking to rush in for someone, A, in terms of value, but B, in terms of just getting someone to be a body in there. That's just not going to happen. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you like him as a player? Do you like him as a profile? What are your hesitations, other thoughts? And I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Much love.